Hey guys, this is Sam Geek, and this is my review of Splinter Cell Conviction for the Xbox 360. Well, it's been a while, but gamers can finally now sink their teeth into Sam Fisher's new adventure. The presentation of Splinter Cell Conviction is no short of absolutely fantastic. The story is actually relatable for once and not just a ton of military jargon over and over. Objectives are displayed on the wall, as well as flashbacks, making the game more fluid. However, the writers of the story seem to have this weird problem of awkwardly placing the last 10 minutes of the game throughout the plot completely out of context. I guess they were trying to make and imply things that don't really happen, but it just seems completely unnecessary. There also was this incredibly terrible level dedicated to a flashback in Iraq, and it's definitely the worst level I've ever played in any Tom Clancy game ever. It felt awkward, unneeded, and it did not work with the combat system at all. And it's a shame because it could have been summed up in a cutscene, but it just was completely unnecessary. Some people may have a beef with the graphics because they seem to be dated, a little bit dated, but not really, and they tend to skip frames quite a lot. And compared to some other Unreal Engine games like Mass Effect 2, the set pieces seem dull and lifeless. Older Splinter Cell fans have no need to get disappointed with the different direction in the story, though, because if you play the co-op mode, it has all the wonderful military jargon you can wish for. Um, The main story is only about 6 hours long, and the co-op mode is only about 4. However, I personally feel that the co-op mode is highly replayable and definitely one of the strongest points of the game. The co-op mode combines all the older things I love about the old Splinter Cells and all the new things I love about Conviction, and romantically places them together in this awesome mode that you can play with a friend. Also, the multiplayer is actually quite well done. However, it's unfortunate that it's pretty prone to latency. Almost half the matches I've connected to have had lots of problems with latency, and that's pretty unfortunate. Hopefully, it will be fixed in a patch. The gameplay has been made a lot more fluid. However, it's lost a lot of its freedom from the older games. While you can still sneak around, shoot out lights, etc., a lot of things like sneaking past people and not being forced to kill them, and being able to jump and roll without a prompt, these are missing. I assume this is to better fit the more fluid, action-paced combat system, but this might disappoint older Splinter Cell fans. The game's gameplay works extremely well, however, the developers seem to have left things out that were just fine in the Splinter Cell games. I just don't see why I can't, jump or roll on the ground without having to use a in-game prompt. But overall, the gameplay works extremely well. I've had no issues with it. I've had no glitches with it, and that's pretty rare to find in a game nowadays. Also, cool things like interrogation scenes in the game kind of lose their luster. Although it's really cool at first, you realize that after the fourth time of interrogating someone, you're simply asking the victim a question, he says no, you press B, and then they answer, over and over and over again. I feel that the developer could have better incorporated different ways of achieving this without relying on the same things over and over, but what can you do? Also, it just seems that the enemy AI seems to have taken a downturn from the older Splinter Cell games. It feels like they spend more time taunting you and yelling expletives rather than trying to kill you. Overall, Splinter Cell Conviction is an extremely well-made game and an incredible action game with stealth elements. However, older Splinter Cell fans will most likely be disappointed that the realism in the game has dropped to about nothing. And it also feels pretty unrealistic that that Sam Fisher has lost the majority of his gear and he's no longer associated with the military organization, he somehow is able to pull off tons of combos and things that he could never possibly do in the original games. And it just seems that the game has been dumbed down. Even in realistic mode, it seems to have been quite promptly dumbed down. But it is still a fantastic action game with an incredible co-op story. The game is great, but older Splinter Cell fans will be disappointed. And that's why Splinter Cell Conviction gets an 8